At any time of year, a visitor to India can be overwhelmed by its beauty and color. But a visitor in late fall is especially fortunate. The temperature will have cooled down, the monsoons will have not yet begun, and Diwali, the festival of lights, is at hand. Diwali is to many Indians what Christmas is to Christians. In essence, it commemorates the victory of the forces of light over the forces of darkness. To experience it fully, get up before dawn and head for the flower markets. Here, flower vendors work feverishly to create garlands of fragrant jasmine that Indians will use to adorn their homes. By dawn, they'll be sold out. Next, head for one of the temples, but go early. Later on in the day, they'll be packed. On your way over, you may see a curious sight. People hunched in front of their doorways, pouring colored sand on the ground. The sand takes the shape of a lotus blossom, a symbol of welcome. And today, millions of symbols of welcome will grace the nation's doorways. Indeed, Diwali is all about sharing. If you're staying in a private home, don't be surprised if the neighbors show up with plates of delicious holiday treats.
Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali, Abhirami.
Thank you.
It's also customary for families to go to the temples together on this day. They often dress in fine new outfits, purchased especially for Diwali. And if their outfits inspire you, head for a sari shop. Shops are open on Diwali, and Indian silks are justifiably famous for their beauty. They're just one of the ways India spruces up and gets into the holiday spirit.
So this is an occasion for all of us to rejoice and be with the family and enjoy all the good things in life. So we buy good clothes and make good food.
And everywhere there are lights. If you head to major commercial districts throughout India, you'll find colorful displays comparable to Christmas lights in Western cities. Some cities also put on spectacular public displays of fireworks, like this one in Delhi. But no matter where you are, there are smaller, more intimate fireworks displays. A long day of celebrations is coming to an end, and it's going out with a bang.
Good morning, and welcome to Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship. I'm Reverend Paul Beckel. We come together today with our joys and sorrows, doubts and wounds, disparate perspectives, and relentless goodwill. It's cold and wet, and maybe a good day to be indoors if we hadn't been stuck indoors on all of those days when it would have been good to be outdoors. The climate of civic dialogue and decision-making seems to have changed beyond recognition. And yet we come together again and again, seeking healing and hope. Today, when the stakes are so high and our strength may feel insufficient, we come together seeking healing. Hold on to this hope with me, friends. Hold on to the hope that when we virtually go our own ways this afternoon, that we will remember and cherish the best in ourselves, the best in each other, and the best in our interbeing. The living tradition of Unitarian Universalism that we share draws inspiration from our direct experience, both tangible observations that we might share with one another using words, and to those experiences that go beyond observation and beyond words. Throughout the ages, human beings in diverse cultural settings have attempted to express through music, playfulness, rituals of eating together, and acts of generosity. We've attempted to express something we know about human being that cannot be put into words, something about being alive and having to die. We come together today to celebrate Diwali, the South Asian Indian holiday that so flamboyantly expresses the terrible joy and ineffable colors, writhing and embracing in that space between being alive and having to die. I am grateful today that our BUF members with direct experience of these festivals have offered to introduce us to Diwali.
One of the most well-known mantras to come out of India is Om Namah Shivaya. And there are various translations of this, but one of them is, I rejoice in the presence of divinity that resides in me. I've studied yoga in the Svarupa lineage for a number of years, and the way my teacher, who comes from the Muktananda lineage, would have us do this for meditation is in a monotone, like Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. We do this at least 108 times. I'm taking it and have given it a melody and a little bit of improvisation. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Good morning. I'm Judy Casper, and as Paul lights the chalice, I offer the words of Reverend David Breeden's hymn to the light. Our light is the light of the sun, keeper of all we love. Our light is the light of the earth, provider of sustenance. Our light is the light of all living things, life precious like our own. Our light is the light in each of us, bound together in need and hope. Our light is the light of the cosmos, keeper of all we know. And now Dick Casper is going to read our covenant, which you will see on your screen.
Please join me. Love is
This fellowship and service.
Love is the spirit of this covenant, and service gives it life. Celebrating our diversity and joined by a quest for truth, we work for peace and honor all creation. This is our covenant. Thank you.
We start with Mahatma Gandhi's favorite song of peace and harmony. It is in our UU hymn book as number 178, Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram. The song sings in praise of Ram and Sita, who uplift all people who are fallen, and the song prays for people of all religions to receive noble intentions. Please join in. The words are at the bottom of the screen.
रघुपति राघव राजा राम, पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम, पतित पावन सीताराम। सीताराम सीताराम, भज प्यारे तू सीताराम। ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम, सबको सन्मति दे भगवान। ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम, सबको सन्मति दे भगवान। रघुपति राघव राजा राम, पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम, पतित पावन सीताराम। सीताराम सीताराम, भज प्यारे तू सीताराम। सीताराम सीताराम, सबको सन्मति दे भगवान। ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। सीताराम सीताराम भज प्यारे तू सीताराम। सीताराम सीताराम भज प्यारे तू सीताराम। ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान। ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम।
Now we will see a short video that explains Diwali.
Around the world, people are lighting up the sky with fireworks and dressing up their homes with colorful decor and candles. It's Diwali, the festival of lights. The word Diwali was inspired from a Sanskrit word called Deepavali, which means rows of lit lamps. And that's why Diwali is known as the Festival of Lights. The 5-day festival is celebrated every fall by Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, and some Buddhists. Hindus celebrate Diwali to rejoice Lord Ram's return home after being exiled for 14 years and defeating a king known as Ravan. Jains celebrate the festival to mark the spiritual awakening of their lord Mahavira. Sikhs celebrate Diwali to commemorate their spiritual leader Guru Har Gobind's return to Amritsar, a city in northern India, after being imprisoned. And some Buddhists celebrate the festival to honor their emperor Ashoka's decision to follow a path of peace and converting to Buddhism, after witnessing a lot of killings. Although these 4 religions have different reasons for celebrating Diwali, what they all have in common is the concept of new beginnings, light over darkness, and good over evil. Diwali is celebrated with prayers, fireworks, candles lit inside of clay pots, rangolis, which are colored patterns drawn on the ground with colored rice or powder, and it's also a good reason to invite friends and family over for a big meal.
I will tell you a little about Diwali. India is a vast country with many different languages, cultures, traditions, and practices of the prevailing Hindu religion. Despite these dissimilar manifestations, especially how differently they celebrate religion in different parts of India, there is a common theme and a thread, a harmony in the Diwali celebrations. I shall explain this in the context of the epic Ramayana. An avatar of Vishnu, the protector and preserver of the world, was born as Prince Ram, who killed a 10-headed evil demon Ravan and established peace on earth. It is a story of victory of good over evil. All that is decent and noble are embodied in the deeds of the god King Ram. The Indian religious calendar goes by the moon. Ram killed Ravan on the 10th day of the moon. After killing Ravana and coincidentally completing 14 years of exile, Ram returned to his capital city Ayodhya along with his wife Sita and his brother Lakshman. On the day of the new moon, the dark night, people celebrated their arrival by lighting up their houses with earthen lamps and firecrackers. This is Diwali, a festival of light, and the celebration has continued for thousands of years. In the North and West India, on this day, some also worship Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. In Eastern India, especially in Bengal, goddess Kali is worshipped on this dark moon Diwali night. She is another form of Mother Goddess Durga. Kali came down to kill a demon whose every drop of blood touching the ground transformed into another demon. So those who tried to kill him created more demons, thus needing the appearance of a special goddess, Kali. She killed the demon in the new moon day, but in her frenzy, she kept on killing anyone in her path. She was unstoppable. It required her husband Shiva to lie down in front of her in order to seize her destructive spell. People worship Goddess Kali at that very moment of her realization, in the posture she was at that instant. It is hard for many to understand Goddess Kali. She is a goddess of destruction and at the same time destroyer of ignorance. On Diwali, which is the same day as Goddess Kali's annihilation of evil, people in the eastern regions of India decorate their houses with earthen lamps to light up the dark night and light lots of fireworks to celebrate Goddess Kali's victory over evil. When I was young there, I myself prepared fireworks like fountains and celebrated. It's a very joyous occasion. Thus, the dark night of the first moon in October, mid-October to mid-November, India celebrates Diwali all over the land. Now, we will see a video of how festivals are celebrated in India with new clothes, songs, dance, and of course, delicious food and sweets.
Good morning. Namaste. My name is Becky Pillai. Some time ago, I was asked if I would make a presentation on Diwali. And at first I thought, oh, yes, okay, so I'll make a little thumbnail Cliff Notes sketch of the Hindu epic Ramayana, which informs this holiday of Diwali. But then no, someone else was going to do that, all right? So I asked, so how should I approach this presentation? And I was told, well, just tell some personal experiences of celebrating it in India. Well, it's not my want to talk about myself, but I'll begin by providing a context so that you understand why it is that I have anything to share about the Hindu holiday of Diwali. And that starts with the fact that my late dear husband was from India. We were married in India, lived in India for a couple of years, then we returned to California. But over the years, we went to India as frequently as we possibly could, staying as long as we would dare, because it was important to us that our little daughter should become comfortable with her heritage. So to narrate for you a particular Diwali that I celebrated, and I celebrated many because my life has been connected to India for all of my adult life. I will describe one that happened many years ago. We happened to be in Delhi. We're South Indians, but we happened to be in Delhi, and it was Diwali time. So through a connection, we were invited to a celebration, a private celebration at a private home. So that evening, it's dark now, and we arrive at the house. It's not surprising to us that it's a great grand house because this is the home of one of India's big industrialists. People are arriving, guests are arriving. We all flow to the watchman's gate. The home is surrounded by a very high white cement compound wall that encircles the entire property. In the dark, at the top of this wall, at intervals of about a foot, there are these lovely little terracotta lamps or lights, probably about this size, but I'm showing you a stainless steel, not a terracotta, would be filled with some kind of oil or ghee, a wick, usually a little cotton wick. So as we enter the house, what we see from the exterior is this wall that covers the entire frontage of the house, lined with hundreds of these oil lamps. It was very dazzling. And as we flowed into the property, I noticed the other guests. And because of the lights being reflected from their faces were glowing and their eyes glittered. It was quite magical. So we entered into the property, and we're now out on the lawn and the garden, and we're circulating and exchanging greetings. On the roof terrace of the house, they're setting off fireworks. And circulating among us are the bearers or the waiters carrying trays of wonderful fresh-made Indian finger foods and beverages. Everybody is dressed to the nines. The women are dressed in their new Diwali silk saris, gorgeous silk saris. And then around their neck, they have their gold and precious stone ornaments, usually in layers of many necklaces, gold bangles from wrist to elbow, earrings, ornate, beautiful earrings. They glittered. They could have been seen from space. After some time, now we're invited to come into the house. We enter into the house. What do we see? We come into an entry hall. The entry hall blends into a very large, long rectangular room, the living room, at the end of which, against the wall, there has been constructed a stage. Well, not a stage, it's more of a platform, maybe a 2-foot platform covered with beautiful Indian textile. And this is the performance platform where the musicians will play. All furniture has been cleared out of this large space. There is no furniture except that platform. Instead, scattered over the floor and over the whole space are cushions. And we, the guests, are invited to take a seat on the cushion any place we chose. Now it happens that we ended up right up front, right beside the performance platform. I could have reached out and touched the artists. And believe me, we didn't end up there because we had our elbows up and made a New York rush. It just happened that we were right up there, very close. Our host, Rose, welcomed us all and then introduced the artists, musicians. The sitar player turned out to be none other than Pandit Ravi Shankar himself. And accompanying him on the drum, the tabla, was the legendary Alaraka. So this was a very extraordinary experience to be present in these two great artists. So close. The concert was just beautiful, so memorable, wonderful. It echoed in my mind what I had studied when I was in the university on Indian arts, that traditionally these concerts would have been held in a temple or in a private, intimate setting like we were experiencing. Whereas today we think of them in a big concert hall on a stage far away, but this echoed like it had been traditionally. So my experience in India was enriched by that evening. I have since taught several classes on India. I've led 2 tours to India, and it's been a great privilege in my life. Every winter, I spend the winter in India at my house. This is pre-COVID time, at which time I teach and do staff development in a village school, and that's a great gift in my life. So there you have a Diwali celebration. I could have told you about 2 others that are quite different, but we don't have time. This narration I just shared has all the basic elements: the lights, the oil lights, the fireworks, the gorgeous new clothes, the merry mood, and the sweets. Because as we left the concert and filed out through the Watchman's Gate, the family had congregated there, and each guest was handed a beautifully decorated box of fresh Indian sweets. Very memorable. So happy Diwali. Thank you.
Well, good morning. My name is Judy Casper, as I said before, and I'm here to talk about my experience regarding reading of the Ramayana. When Debu invited a group to read this Indian epic, he said it guides the life of all Hindus. And I joined because I was curious to gain insight about another culture in this way. I was glad he chose a summary version so we could focus on the story and the characters and what they tell us. On the surface, the Ramayana is an epic adventure about a husband rescuing his wife by defeating an evil abductor. More importantly, it's an allegory revealing lessons for righteous conduct or dharma, as exemplified by the words and deeds of Rama, an avatar of Vishnu, and Sita, an avatar of goddess Lakshmi. So I'm going to give you the thumbnail sketch, possibly a whole hand worth of the story. We follow the life of Rama, who as a young prince wins the hand of beautiful Princess Sita by stringing a sacred bow. They live happily until the time comes for Rama to take the throne. Instead, he is exiled to the forest for 14 years because of a vow his father made long ago. Rama departs, stating, Dharma must be followed in all circumstances, pleasant and unpleasant. His loyal brother Lakshmana goes with him, as does Princess Sita, saying it is her wifely duty to be by his side wherever he is. After some idyllic time in nature, Rama sets about clearing the forests of demons who are harassing the many sages and saints who live there. He justifies his use of violence as a means for protecting the holy sages and thus maintaining Dharma. But about 10 years in, Ravana, the king of the demons, hears of Sita's beauty and kidnaps her, flying away in his magical car to his kingdom in Lanka. There, Sita rebuffs his advances for nearly 10 months and vows to accept death before betraying her husband. Sita is still revered as a paragon of spousal and feminine virtues for Hindu women today. Rama's route to rescuing Sita is long, complicated, and filled with challenges and fascinating, fabulous characters. Through it all, by word and deed, he expresses the Dharma the right way. His spiritual excellence shines through. Eventually, he forms an alliance with a race of monkey-like people called Varanas and invades the kingdom of Lanka with his army. After a terrible, gruesome, bloody war in which giants, magic, celestial weapons, healing herbs, and intervention by the gods play a part, Rama defeats the evil king with a sacred missile and finally frees Sita. But before taking her back, Rama requires Sita to undergo a trial by fire to remove any doubt about her chastity. Good having triumphed over evil, the couple flies home in the aerial car along with their friends and allies. Coincidentally, the 12 years of exile have ended and Rama takes the throne, and King Rama and Sita go on to rule in peace, health, and prosperity for many wonderful years. The celebration of Rama's return to his kingdom is Diwali, the festival of light. So what I learned in reading the Ramayana and from background information that Debu shared with us is that Hindus read it with the belief that they are reading a true story of Vishnu, one of Vishnu's avatars. All his words and actions are sacred, and thus they don't question or try to find logical reasons for Rama's actions. God has reasons that we do not see or understand. The story symbolizes the spiritual victory of light over darkness, good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance. The virtuous words and actions of the characters serve as a guide for right living and influence the life of Indian culture and Hindu Indian culture. In India today, the Ramayana lives in print, in art, in films, in cartoons, in songs such as Sita Sings the Blues, and in drama. Not long ago, it became a hugely popular long-running TV series, which millions of people dropped everything to watch. I think it's an amazing thing that an epic written in verse 2.5 millennia ago is still so alive for Hindus today. The fact that it's read as a true story gives me pause, but that may maybe reflects my Western worldview. The author we read, D.S. Sarma, stated that the abiding lesson of the Ramayana is the superiority of moral and spiritual progress to material and scientific progress. And I think maybe we Westerners could use a little more of that. And now I'm going to hand off to Dick for his reflections.
First of all, I'd like to thank Debu and Judy for dramatically allowing me to edit what I was going to speak of and give it and concentrate on the underlying thoughts that I had after reading the Ramayana. I was impressed with its content, not only of good defying evil, but the fact that the story has endured for 2.5 millennia, much longer than any story that's in the European or English language, mainly because those languages didn't exist for 2.5 millennia. And why, in those stories like Beowulf and the Song of Roland, which are both heroic epic poems, they do not continue the popularity that the Ramayana has. And pondering that, it comes back to me to the message of Dharma, and that basically Dharma is the principle of conducting oneself in an honorable way and adhering to social norms. And that if you stray from those social norms, you best have in your back pocket a gift from the god, 2 magic arrows, and a talking flying monkey in order to make things right. And in that sense, the Ramayana has endured, I believe, as a teaching primer for parents and grandparents, as it is a really engrossing and captivating story in the age before cartoons. Finally, I'll speak briefly of in a comparison to our own Festival of Light, which is December 25th. And as it was back in the last years of the Emperor Constantine, when he was in actually his last year of his life and was the first Christian emperor of Rome, the season of Christ's birth was not fixed in time, neither in the Bible as to either a date or even a season, but it became associated with the Roman season of Saturnalia, which is an agrarian festival celebrating a winter planting. And the Julian calendar, after years and decades, ceased to be well oriented with the winter solstice. And so with calendar revisions, Diwali strayed from Christmas time or vice versa. And so as it happens, Diwali remains associated with the winter solstice, and ours is mainly associated with Christ's birth. Although the daylight when we celebrate Christmas is usually much longer than that associated with Diwali. Finally, I'll speak briefly of the hero of our lighted festival, that being Santa Claus. And Santa Claus, also known as Sinterklaas or Saint Nicholas of Bari, was a 3rd century bishop of the city of Marna that's located in southern Turkey. And he was declared a saint mainly because of his life of generosity and various miracles associated with him. He was the patron saint of children, sailors, pawnbrokers. For various reasons, his generosity included dispensing his family wealth to the poor. He was especially generous to penniless fathers of maiden daughters who required money in order to provide a dowry to their daughters so that they would not become engaged in lifestyles that were less than sacred. And he was noted to have saved the life of sailors from execution and calmed the seas. And there was miracles attributed to him saving 3 children from being cannibalized by an evil butcher during a time of famine. And how he's now portrayed as a colorful, obese herder of very small but talented caribou and employing legions of elves, I'll leave to mercenary considerations as well as advertising. Finally, though, his most well-documented story, which I think is most relevant, was the story where that is noted in the ancient rolls of who attended the Council of Nicaea in the 4th century. His name is there with the annotation that he was involved in a fight or even involving fisticuffs with the man who was the Bishop of Alexandria, one Arius, to whom the Arian heresy was attributed. And you see, St. Nicholas was an avowed Trinitarian, and he apparently won the fight, whether verbal or physical, with Arius. And I wonder what would have happened if the avowed St. Nicholas would have lost the match, and we would have become more Unitarian even in the 3rd century. And with that, I'll end my remarks.
Hi, Tabu, can you unmute yourself? Tabu?
Oh, sorry. Okay, we will conclude our program, this Diwali program, with a 500-year-old song, a favorite of Mahatma Gandhi. It says like this: call those people Vaishnava who feel the pains of others. Help those who are in misery. But never let self-conceit enter their mind.
Vaishnava Jana Ko
सकल लोकमा साहुने बंदे निंदा ना करे के नीरे पाच कच मन निश्चल राखे धन धन जननी के नीरे
वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए जेठी मराई जाने रे।
समदृष्टि ने कृष्ण प्रियावी पर स्त्री ने मातरे जीवता की असत न बोले पर धन न बोझल आतरे
वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए जेठी मराई जाने रे।
मोह माया नहीं जेने क्रीड भैरव जेना मन मारे राम नाम सुकाली लागी सकल तीरथ सेना तन मारे
वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए जेठी मराई जाने रे।
लोभीने कपट रहितेছে काम क्रोध निवारयते आने नर सैन्य सेतु अर्शन कोटा मन असवान
वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए जेठी मराई जाने रे। हर दुखे उपकार करे तो ये मन अभिमान जाने रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए जेठी मराई जाने रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए जेठी मराई जाने रे।
Good morning. I'm Beth Brownfield from the Native American Connections and an activist for Original Nations and Peoples for the last 44 years of my life. We acknowledge that this land is a traditional territory of the Lummi and Nooksack peoples. Their presence is imbued in these mountains, valleys, waterways, and shorelines. May we nurture our relationship with our Coast Salish neighbors and the shared responsibilities for their homelands where we all reside today. I'm going to be speaking frankly with you this morning. This acknowledgement, with all its intent of honoring our Coast Salish neighbors, is a polite cover-up of the local history and that of original nations and people in this country for over 500 years. How is this so? We say their presence is imbued in these mountains, the mountains that have been logged over, mined, settled, and commercialized, thus destroying and making unavailable their gathering grounds and their sacred sites. We say their presence is imbued in these valleys, the valleys which have been logged off of the forest, covered over sacred sites with parking lots, freeways, shopping malls, and houses, and erased all signs of the first inhabitants of these lands and waters. We say their presence is imbued in these waterways, rivers which have been dammed, rerouted, polluted, and water levels lowered by irrigation of crops and public use, threatening salmon's survival during spawning. We say their presence is imbued in these shorelines, the shorelines where shellfish are poisoned by pollution. Salmon stocks have declined in the Salish Sea to record levels by overfishing, and the effects of climate change, which has changed the balance of nature and made it less hospitable to all life. We say, may we nurture our relationship with our Coast Salish neighbors and the shared responsibilities to their homelands where we all reside today. This covers over that we are living on stolen lands and that the relationship up until a few years ago was not acknowledged and not nurtured. Even now, in parts of the county, there is great hostility to tribes, and local tribal members do not feel comfortable coming into Bellingham or shopping at many local businesses. The two nations, Lummi and Nooksack, that we acknowledge are out of sight and out of mind. The majority of residents in Whatcom County are afraid to go out to Lummi, thinking it is a dangerous place. In my 15 years of going out there, I have never witnessed a drunk and never felt threatened by anyone or anything. The majority of original people I know live with historical trauma because of previous generational culture shock of boarding schools, discrimination, racism, poverty, government abuse, and reservation life. The reservation they refer to as a prison. Sometime in their life or among their families, many participate in self-harm, such as alcohol and drug use, and experience depression, which may lead to suicide or crimes or arrests and incarceration. 1 in 4 women, Indigenous women, are sexually assaulted in their life, mostly by non-Indian males. We have learned about the thousands of missing and murdered Indian women in this country whose cases are unsolved. Out of 5,712 missing Alaskan Native and American Indian women and girls, only 116 of whom were registered with the Department of Justice database. One close friend of mine was gang raped in high school, which was a rite of passage for male teenagers to rape a squaw on Friday night in her town in British Columbia. Her first child was conceived in that rape. Getting down to our local history, which is impolite to share about the truths, are boarding schools that go back 2 generations. The granddaughter of a former Nooksack tribal chair father was discouraged his granddaughter from going to college because his tongue had been split when he was in boarding school speaking his own language. In the 60s and 70s, during the fishing wars, there were people in the county with bumper stickers that read, "Save a salmon, eat an Indian." This is in the 60s and 70s here. Why am I telling you this? It is because Indigenous lives matter, their culture matters, and they are nearly invisible in the discussion of oppression. They are in the front lines in the world with a change in climate. They are in the front lines of the extractive industries of worldwide that is destroying their lands and living plants and creatures that give them life, and thus destroying their culture. They are also being murdered at enormous numbers. The COVID pandemic and the climate crisis and the failure of our economic system with growth at all cost and the domination of people of color must be addressed. These times have exposed the cracks and fissures of racism, classism, and caste. Those targeted by racism and oppression cannot thrive, and we ourselves cannot thrive if these issues are not faced and addressed. The resolution on the 8th principle today gives us an opportunity, despite any of our disagreements with wording or proposed attention, what we can know that the UUA's intentions are great and that the proposal will be worked on intensively.
Let me know when you're home and I'll come on.
Sorry, I'm going to start that again. The resolution on the 8th principle today gives us an opportunity, despite any of our disagreements with wording or proposed intention. What we can know that the UUA's intentions are great, and this proposal will be worked on intensely before bringing a resolution forth at General Assembly in 2022, where the vote of the delegates from around the country will make a determining vote. Let us vote this resolution up and put BUF's oar in the water to say we are on the journey together with other UU congregations and the UUA that will take actions to dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves, our congregations, UU institutions, in the wider society. May it be so.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you for that sobering call to self-awareness that when we celebrate Diwali, as important as it is to call forth our joy and our optimism about the overcoming of darkness with the light and evil with good, the reason we have to do that is because there is so much darkness. There is so much evil to overcome. And it's good that we can be honest with each other. We can be honest with ourselves, and we can ask ourselves, where do we go from here? I trust that when we get together week after week, we can strengthen one another in hope for what we can do individually and together. So every time I invite you at this point in the service to consider contributing financially to furthering the mission of this congregation, I'm cognizant that there are many different ways to measure that strength that we have, to measure our strength or to describe who we are. We can measure our strength and describe who we are in raw numbers. That is, how many people have expressed commitment to our mission by becoming members, or how many contribute to our programs by preparing and leading and by showing up simply to be with one another. Our strength and our identity can also be described by dollar numbers that we receive in contributions, how we spend it, and how we stand financially as we look to the future. But numbers aren't necessarily the best way to describe our strength, our identity, or our resilience and our healing energies. We see all of those things too in how we describe ourselves, what we say about ourselves, our steady covenant and our principles, and also our evolving verbal responses to all that's going on in the world. So our numbers, what we say about ourselves, but also, of course, what we do together, the ways that we fulfill our call to minister to each other and to this hurting world in so many ways that are beyond words. What we do together speaks, so to speak, profoundly about who we are. So there's numbers, what we say, what we do, all of which can be powerful indicators of our strength and our identity, certainly no less an indicator of beloved community, of course, though, is how we are together. Jesus said it this way: "You will know my disciples by their love for one another." All of these aspects of our strength, all of these expressions of our identity are woven together and reinforce one another. Each time we choose to gather with one another, we will be reminded of these opportunities to grow in strength and love. While Melanie plays for us now, I encourage you to consider how you might contribute to our growth, our strength, our mission, and our identity, financially and otherwise. To donate by Visa or MasterCard or PayPal, you can go to buf.org and click on donate in the upper right-hand corner. To donate from your phone, you can use an app called Give Plus, which is available on iPhone and Android. And you can also send a check to us at our physical address at 1207 Ellsworth. So thank you all for all the ways that you find to support the mission, to support the good work, and to overcome all the challenges that we have, that we face together.
Offertory today is Song of India by the Russian composer Rimsky-Korsakov. hymn we're going to sing together is number 148, Let Freedom Span Both East and West.
Let freedom span both east and west, and love both south and north, in universal fellowship throughout the whole wide earth. In beauty, wonder everywhere, let us communion find, compassion be the golden cord, close binding humankind. Beyond all barriers of race, of color, caste, or creed, let us make friendship, human worth, our common faith and deed. Then east and west will meet and share, on south shall bind with north, one human commonwealth of good throughout the whole wide earth.
Thank you, Melanie. I hope that if you are visiting with us for the first time today, that you will come back and experience with us the variety of ways that we explore our community, our possibilities, our purpose, and our ways of growing together in this very difficult time that we share. The best way probably to know what's going on here at BUF is to sign up for the midweek update, which is a short newsletter that comes out every Wednesday afternoon. You can sign up for the midweek update at buf.org. Also at buf.org, you can sign up for our listserv called BUF News, which is an interactive listserv. And just going to buf.org on a regular basis, you can find out about our programs. So I encourage you to do that anytime, but especially today, if you have not gotten the information about our annual meeting, not our annual meeting, our congregational today, a non-annual meeting, a special congregational meeting. We meet to fulfill our democratic responsibilities and opportunities in May, usually every year, but now we have more responsibilities and opportunities that we're going to be dealing with today at 1 o'clock. And if you haven't gotten the Zoom link to that meeting, it's actually the very same Zoom link you're on now. So come back here at 1. And we'll be discussing an updated budget, a proposed 8th resolution, 8th principle, and some proposed amendments to that resolution. And we'll be learning more about the unfolding COVID policies and procedures that we're going to have to keep ourselves and each other safe. So I hope that all members will be here at 1 to vote on those proposals, and everyone else will be here just to see how we are together in deliberation and in fulfilling our democratic process. So as we extinguish our chalices at home and here, and as we virtually go our own ways, may we remember and cherish the best in ourselves, the best in each other, and the best in our interbeing. May we have patience with things that take time, understanding of those who have different struggles, and the strength to get up and try again, one day at a time. And stay with us afterward for the coffee and conversation where we'll be broken up into small groups after Melanie's post the